Today on Locked On Canadiens, if the Habs score while you're in the bathroom, you are staying in the bathroom for the rest of their playoff run.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. We are still buzzing from the Canadiens clinching the playoffs. We're going to talk so much playoffs today, but first, I want to thank everyone for making us your first listen of the day. Every day is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day, and you will hopefully continue to make us your first listen of the day as we move through the playoffs. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first order. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined by the wonderful Ian Boisvert, also known as Baby It's Ian. I don't know, Ian, if it's a good luck charm or not. This is your first season with Locked On Canadiens, and the Habs have made the playoffs.
My record is unimpeachable.
It is. Like you can't argue with that. All right.
I am the Emil Heinemann of this podcast. That's what I'm learning.
And if you ever leave us, the Canadiens will no longer win games. All right. Let's get into it. Today, we want to talk about the Montreal Canadiens as they head into the playoffs. We've got some mailbag questions from all of you. We want to talk about like what we've been thinking about with respect to the series. We want to talk about playoff superstitions. I do want to mention that there is a crossover with analysis and previews coming up with Locked On Capitals, and we're very excited about that. And that episode is going to drop on Monday before the series starts. Today, it's just going to be Ian and my thoughts. And also over the course of the next week or so, we're going to have some content together with Game Over. We're going to be guesting on their show. They're going to be guesting on our show. We're going to have a really, really good time because the Canadiens are in the playoffs. It doesn't happen every year. Hopefully it'll be happening a lot going forward. And we don't know how long the playoff run is. So we want to get all that exciting stuff happening this week. Make sure you're subscribed. All right. And I still have a lot of feelings. Like I don't even know, like it took me a while to get ready to record this episode because I'm just so emotional over this.
Yeah, it's very cool to see that, everybody's just in a really great mood. There's a lot of people who are naysaying and saying, well, the Canadiens only got here because Carolina benched half their roster or whatever. But you could say the same thing about Columbus. They got 2 free points against half of the Washington Capitals. The thing with Columbus and Montreal in these instances is they put themselves in a position to benefit from a game like that, right? Carolina didn't have to do that. They did, but Montreal put themselves in a position where they needed a single point to make the playoffs. I don't want to hear any of this naysaying. It's kind of here's another thing. I think we have to stop living through the eyes of the people who hate us. Like I see a lot of people talking about how, Sens fans and Leaf fans are saying a whole bunch of stuff. Like, just stop caring. Like, I don't care at all that the Sens made the playoffs. That hasn't even it's the Mad Men scene where they're like, I feel bad for you. And John Hamm goes, I don't think about you at all. I don't think about you at all. Like, it does not occur. You do your own thing. Cool. Go beat the crap out of each other in the first round. Like, I'm very tired of instead of enjoying things, being told that I should live through the lens of somebody who doesn't like our team. Like, I don't get it. I find it very, social media has kind of ruined that aspect of sports for me. And I'm taking it back. I'm just deciding I do not care what you think.
So I kept ranting about that. And Ian told me, like, why do you care about their opinions when you know the team they like? Like, look at their tastes, look at their choices, look at their lives. Why do you care about those people? And I think that's very true. And I do feel like, this is an unexpected outcome for this year. I know the Canadians say, or Marty says he believed, et cetera, et cetera. I know all of that, but this is unexpected, right? And this is going to be the trial balloon. It's going to be the test case because we saw in this last week how this team of inexperienced, immature players had a lot of anxiety and there were a lot of issues over this. Like, this is the year that they have to get that out of the way because next year they're expected to make the playoffs. They're expected to win rounds, right? So
yeah.
I do hope that, that this week's experience, etc., has prepared them a little bit more for the moment that's coming up, because they are playing against a really like a team that's so deep and so good, and a team that they were able to beat. We do need to point that out.
Yeah.
And I think that, we need to enjoy this, because if we start getting dejected about it, like it's really we're kind of looking a gift horse in the mouth, I think, when if we do that. I feel like for me, this is something where I want to see how they perform, but if they don't perform, they weren't ready anyway. We just talked about it. They're not ready for prime time. So if they do win, it's going to be a shocking outcome, but it's going to be so much fun for us, right? For every game they lose, they're going to learn things. For every game they win, they're going to learn things. If any of these games go to double or triple overtime, that is an experience you can never take away, right? There are so few veterans on the team. And I just thought about, we were talking about, the run in 2010. We were talking about the run in 2021. Like, there's a lot of conversations about their previous runs. And I think about how the veterans featured so prominently in those wins, right? Anytime there was an upset or an unexpected situation, like there were your PK Subans, and then, those exciting moments, but they leaned a lot on veterans. Like, remember Hal Gill and Travis Moe, and like, why were they on the team, right? Like, those are players that the veteran presence made a difference, and then with the Eric Stahl and the Corey Perry and all of that in 2021, like, that is Shea Weber. I can't, if I forget Shea Weber, I know we'll get calls and emails, but that's the experience that they have, right? So the Canadians are going into this, and their veterans are Brendan Gallagher and David Savard. Like, those
Josh
are
Anderson,
Josh
Stanley
Anderson.
Cup final overtime winning goals. Josh Anderson.
the one game they won. Right. So like, but they don't have those grizzled guys. They don't have like the 5 guys they're playing for. They have the Brendan Gallagher they're playing for, essentially, right? And David Savard. Like, this team loves David Savard, but David Savard at least has a lot of, he's had a lot of chances. And I think, I think that we do need to remember this is a young team. We do need to remember this past week, but this is the year that they can afford to do this. This is the year that they can afford to have those jitters, to be nervous, to not be ready for the moment, because next year the moment's not going to wait for them. They have to grab it, or someone else gets it, right?
Yeah. And to that point, I think the Washington Capitals are a perfect opponent for the Canadians this year, because, the Canadians down the stretch, we wanted them to take that next step, and they just couldn't. And that was the story of the season series against the Washington Capitals. The first game back on Halloween was the first time that they played each other this season. Montreal and Washington were tied 3-3 going into the third period, and Montreal fell apart and lost 6-3. The second game that they played was in December 7th. They took a lead into the third period in that game, 2-1, and they ended up losing 4-2. Again, they had that game. It was there for them. And then the final time they played Washington back on January 10th was a 3-2 overtime win, where Suzuki scored the winner in overtime. And again, they took a 2-1 lead into the third period, and they gave up the tying goal very quickly in the third period to one Lars Eller, who, welcome back to Montreal, Lars. Should be a really fun series. I like Lars Eller. I always kind of want him back. I think actually I pitched him coming back to the Canadians at some point this year. I really like this player.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's my Lars adult son. I love him.
Yeah. So look, like, I think that matchup against Washington is sort of the story of the Canadian season. And are they at the point now where they can turn those into wins, where they can decide late in the second, early in the third, that they're not going to throw that away? Because they got opportunities against that Washington team to beat them. And I think it was one of the Washington games, it might have been that 4-2 Washington game, where the they threw up on themselves line came from. Like that to have a matchup that has a Martyism born out of it is like, it's very emblematic of how this Canadians season has gone. I'm very excited. It's like, it's almost poetic that they get to do this against a team that we saw a steady progression against all year. And it's very exciting. I think it's a team they match up against pretty well. You guys are going to get the full sort of Caps Habs walkthrough with our Locked On Capitals counterparts. We won't get too deep into it now, but there's a lot to look forward to in this, just from a narrative perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will say before we move on to the playoff superstitions part is Marty was talking about after the game yesterday, saying, the Canadians had a 2% chance of making the playoffs before the Four Nations. And to him, he was like, a 2% chance is still a chance, right? So whenever you're watching those predictions and people say things like Washington in 3, or like, more realistically, there's a lot of Washington in 5 that I'm seeing out there. I'm seeing a lot of Washington in a sweep. When you're looking at that, I want you to remember that the games have not been played yet. And until they're actually out, anything can happen. It might not be logical, but this is sports. This is what we're here to do. We're here to watch this team, and they're supposed to be fun, right? It's supposed to be fun. And always remember that this is school for them. It's not the expectation. This is where they're going to learn, because next year we're going to need them to be able to be mature and take those steps. All right. In our next segment, we are going to start our mailbag, but we also have some playoff superstitions to talk about, because Ian and I are like not on the same page about some of this stuff, but we are on the others. So let's get into that in just a moment, because we want to make sure we do all our lucky stuff for the Canadians to win. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to amazon.com/FireTV locked on to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation. All right, so I told the story, or I've told this story before, but I'll get into it really quickly. In the 2021 playoff run, I believe it was against Vegas. There was a point where it seemed hopeless, and I happened to just go to the washroom while the game was still on, because I could not wait any longer. I did that thing where I stood in front of the TV, like shaking my head and stuff. And then while I was in the washroom, the Canadians scored, and then as soon as I came out of it, Vegas scored, or something like that. I don't even remember at that point. And so my former co-host at the time was like, you have to watch this game from the bathroom now. And I ended up watching the rest of the Vegas series. And also until it became evident that my bathroom superstition was not working for the Stanley Cup final. I literally had to watch it from the bathroom, and I ended up like, there was this one game where I'd like put pillows in the bathtub so that I could like lounge around, and like I was sitting there watching the games on a tiny little iPad, because I believed that if I watched it from my couch, the Canadians were going to lose. And I know this sounds crazy, but most of you listening, you probably have done something like that in the past. I remember, I think it was 2010. There was this one playoff run where the Canadians climbed up the steps of the St. Joseph's Oratory on their knees, because they wanted the Canadians to win. I don't think it was 2010. Actually, it was against the Bruins, that series that I'm thinking about. But this is what being a sports fan is like. So, Ian, let's talk about superstitions. Do you have any?
I had one for a long time. I probably have it somewhere still. I had a hat that was my lucky hat. It's beat up. It's dirty, because of course it is, because you don't wash lucky things. We all know this. And that was a thing that I wore. I think that started in the 2010 series. And the reason it was my lucky hat was I realized after a while it was the same hat that Yarrow Halak would wear on the bench. And I was like, oh, cool. Like I have the same hat. And of course, then Halak went on that run in 2010. And that was that was the hat. The luck on it obviously wore off after a while, I believe, but maybe it's back. Maybe it was so over, but maybe now it is back. I think
It is
I'm
so
gonna have to
back.
find it. I'm gonna look for it tonight. I need to find it.
That's going to be really funny. So, okay. So there's a couple of things because we were talking about superstitions, but also we were talking about jinxing. And I did want to bring this up because yesterday I got really upset at all the fans OLEing with like 9 minutes to go or whatever because the Carolina Hurricanes scored almost immediately after that. And in my experience, every time that happens and they do premature OLEing at the Bell Center, a goal immediately goes in the Canadiens' net. Now, Ian, you don't believe in that one.
Yes, and you know what, Laura? I know for a fact you shouldn't either. When we
Why?
were in Buffalo, at that game, they were up, I think, 2-1 late in the third. But it wasn't over by any stretch. It was before the empty net goal. There were a lot of olays going on there. I didn't see you doing them. Let's be perfectly clear. I'm not incriminating my co-host here. I was doing them. I was letting those rip. It had been so long since I got to do that in an arena. And the sky didn't fall. Does it only work in Buffalo? I mean, the Canadiens fans were olaying a lot over this last stretch run where they would like over that 6-game winning streak where like even if they barely had the lead in the third period, they were olaying, doing the wave. It didn't matter. Like I just find that I think people look at the olay as a sign of disrespect to the other team. And maybe at one point it started that way, but it isn't anymore. Like that is the same thing as the Go Habs Go chant. To me, it's the same thing. The Nana hey hey goodbye, like that one, there's no room for misinterpretation there. Like that is what it is. So I get why people are doing it. I saw someone say that, you know, someone in front of them stood up and turned around and told everybody to shut up. I think that's funny. That's really funny to me personally. Like if you believe in it to that much of an extent, if they get to LA, you also get to tell them to stop. Like that's fair game. So look, I mean, it's a fun tradition. That's what makes the Bell Center special though, right? Is like we have that, nobody else does.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
the thing that stinks is sometimes it gets rubbed in our face, especially in playoff losses.
Yeah.
You know, the Pajot chant was still just blood curdling.
I hate that guy so much.
Gonna be a
Oh,
great Hab next year.
well, that, but also if the Canadians win this series and the Devils win their series, we're gonna have to see that guy again.
No, he's with the
No, he's in
Islanders.
the Islanders. He's on the
Yeah.
Islanders now.
Different Lou team.
I cannot remember why I thought that. But one thing I will say is that I do think, though, when they're doing it at the Bell Center, I don't necessarily think of it like as a sign of disrespect, but it's possible that that's something that does fire up the other team, right? Like, so, you know, I look at it as a jinx, but really what it is like it organically, it's kind of like score effects where it's like they hear that and they're like, we got to get it together because we don't want to be run out of this building, right?
Yeah.
All right. I think we have time for our first mailbag question before we go to our third segment.
Yeah. Let's take a look at one from Jacques Face Punch on YouTube. You guys always talk about second half Slav, and he has been great, but will there be a third half Slav?
I love that question. So we got a couple of comments. I think it was on TikTok or something. And I could not interpret whether that meant good or that meant bad, right? Like, and it was Slav is going to be a problem in the playoffs. A problem for who? A problem for the Habs or a problem for the Caps? So I couldn't tell what that meant. I think that he, like, you know, he's definitely going to be nervous. Like the team admitted fully to being nervous, right? Their difference is some of them handled their nerves a little bit better than the others, I think is what happened. He's definitely going to be nervous. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to need to get that first game out of the way, whether it's a shock win or whether like they get shellacked. Like they have to get that first game out of the way and the sun has to come out the next day and then they'll be fine. I think that's the thing. And so I feel like with Slav, there's a non-zero chance that his first game we're going to be making a lot of complaints about it.
It's possible.
Yeah.
And look, like you talked about like, you know, the 2% chance thing and staying positive with these guys because again, this is a found wallet. They weren't supposed to be here. I think one of the best scenarios for the Canadiens in this series is that they somehow steal one in Washington to start the series, and you head back to a fully packed explosive Bell Center for 2 games, that series becomes almost a coin flip at that point. If the Canadiens can rise to that occasion, they won't lose. Like that is the effect that building has, especially in the playoffs. I'm so excited we get to see it full again. Remember the fan when in the cup final when they only let 2,500 people in. He says it's gonna sound like 25,000. I swear to God, like that. But this is gonna sound like 25,000.
It's gonna be 25,000. They're gonna sound like 200,000.
Yeah, exactly. No, I can't. I'm so excited. Just even watching it on TV, I cannot wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and the city's already buzzing. And real quick, we did get a comment from our good friend Kyle Roberts, saying I have to stay away. If you haven't listened, it's because the Capitals are undefeated when I'm in the building, and I have promised that I won't even take the metro that goes under the Bell Center within 2 hours of the game. I do need to get to work and back, so I do need to use public transit. But I will. I promise you, I will alter my hours in such a way and my days in such a way that I will not be near the Bell Center within 2 hours of the game. So not only am I promising not to attend if the opportunity arises, I'm promising to stay away as well. All right. In our next segment, we're going to get into some more mailbag questions. We're all hype. It's the playoffs, and let's get going in just a moment. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it is unlike anything else. I can vouch for that. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building is next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer, and with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, anything. And they're all in pricing. We'll show the total cost up front so you don't get surprise fees at checkout. The app even shows you panoramic views from your seat so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And with Game Time ticket coverage, I know I'm protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss assurance, or their 24-hour return guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We are in the home stretch of this segment, and guess what? When we start our new week next week, it's going to be the day the Canadiens play the Washington Capitals in the playoffs. I can't believe you're saying that. Like, if you, like, even I think in February, if you told me that this was going to be happening, I don't think I would have believed you.
No, it would have been impossible. For a while we kind of all thought that run they were on in December was just like, that'll go away. And for a time it did, and then they got healthy again and it came back, and then they lost it again and it came back. They did the thing that young teams do where they have a hard time winning consistently. But they're there. And it's a new season starts on Monday. You know that you can put everyone starts at 0-0. Where none of it mattered coming into this. Now, like, forget everything that happened. Forget how hard it was for you to clinch that spot. Just go out and focus on the game in front of you. You only get 4. You have to pretend that that's all you get.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. Let's take a look back really quick at the regular season here for our next question from Danny Joe 22. I have a question this week that might take Statman Ian a little bit to get the numbers, so I've sent it in early. Appreciate that because it did give me time to do that. Or you can maybe point me to where I can get the information more easily. The place I would look always is Hockey Reference. It's the greatest stat website that exists. I'm a longtime believer that Matheson was not the power play 1 problem, but rather the system. Can you tell me how many points Matheson got on power play 1 last year, and how many the power play got last year as compared to Lane on power play 1 this year? Not that I'm saying Lane is not an upgrade, but to me the problem isn't either of them, but rather the one-dimensional setup. I believe that because Lane has so little a shooting threat at the minute that teams are happy to let him dance along the blue line and just cover off the recipient of the pass. It's a really interesting question because I think the other aspect of this too is that the power play has just started scoring more and Hudson's berth onto power play 1 has also corresponded with this guy who became a power play weapon in Patrick Laine. So like, I don't know how easy it is to do. I did pull the numbers, so we can go through them. In 23-24, where Matheson spent the entire season on power play 1, all 82 games, he had 28 points on the power play, 5 of them goals. So not a ton of goals, but that's a power play 1 quarterback, sure. That in 82 games is 0.34 points per game on the power play. Hudson this year, he has 25 points and 1 goal. So 3 points less than Matheson, but you also have to remember, and I look back through my notes, the first 20 games of the season, Matheson was on power play 1, not Hudson. So if you do the point per game based on Hudson only playing power play 1 for the first 20 games, he's at 0.4 points per game. So he is producing more on that power play. But it can't all be him, because we know Laine stepped in and became one of the most lethal shooters on the power play in the league. So it's tough to we all watch Lane Hudson with our eyes. The eye test tells us he's the best option for that. Yeah. But it's tough to separate that, right? Because what if it's not Laine? What if it's still Kirby Dach on that spot? Because that's who ended up coming off. You know, I don't know that maybe he is closer to Matheson this year. Probably not. I still think Laine has that talent, but it's tough to know for sure and separate those two things.
I think that's fair. I mean, you know, I'm so glad that we have a math person, because if Danny Joe had asked me that question, I would have just cried for 2 days.
Yeah,
try to figure out how I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm justifying my subscription to StatHead, which is the hockey reference. The nerd, like, it's like Nerd Plus for hockey reference. Like it just gives me more. That's where I come up with all these stupid playoff or trivia questions. Let's do a fun one here from Emily. I'm currently traveling and haven't been able to watch any games since last Tuesday. Cursed time zones. I'm sorry if I've been a curse to the team. Hey, they made it. Don't sweat it. Thank you for the great game recaps. Without them, I don't know how good of a game Slav had last night. My silly mailbag question is, in the window, middle, and aisle seats on the plane, pretend they're not millionaires and they're flying economy. Of the Canadiens, who sits in each spot? Do you think is there an easy answer to this?
Yeah, I think so. Because I feel like there's going to be like people deferring, right? Like nobody's going to make Brendan Gallagher sit in a middle seat, right? That's not happening. Nobody's going to make David Savard sit in a middle seat. So they get whatever seat they want, right? And then you've got the guys like Emil Heineman, maybe Kapanen, like those guys, they'll take the middle seat. They're new. Yeah. They're, you know, and then you'll have like Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, like maybe like flipping a coin for it, right? Like, and Christian Dvorak is going to sit like wherever Cole Caulfield is. So he'll sit in the middle if he gets to be near Cole Caulfield, and vice versa. So I think like the goalies, they get left alone and they get exit rows.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Lane Hudson doesn't sit in any of them because the pilot has called him up to the front because he thinks he's a small child and let him fly the plane for a little bit. I think Cole loves like the window seat
with the wings.
Yes, he got the little aviator pin and a sticker that says "I flew the plane" or whatever. Are any of I'm going to hijack this question? Are any of them the kind of people who would clap when the plane lands? Do you think any of them are that guy?
I'm going to get so much hate mail for this, but David Savard is 1,000,000% that guy.
Absolutely. You're totally right. Totally right. He absolutely. Arbor-Jack, I probably would too. And nobody would say anything because look at him.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he has plot armor in that respect.
Yeah.
The last plane question I have here, who's the guy that stands up as soon as the plane lands to get their stuff out of the overhead? Who's that guy?
That's a great question. That is a great Jaden Struble, because he's been on a plane and because a lot of times people get annoyed with that guy, but that guy sometimes is like they're crushed into this tiny little seat and like their feet are touching the front seat and all of that. And he's just all cramped and he needs to stretch. He's like a physical specimen and just I think he does that, but just to stretch.
Yeah. That was fun. That was a great setup for a question. We kind of hijacked it and took it in a different direction, but I imagine you're flying around a lot lately, and that's why that was on your mind. So I hope we pointed out some other guys to watch for when you are flying. The last one I want to read today comes from Jake Messier on YouTube that says, "Here's my Friday mailbag question. Woohoo! That's it. So I just wanted to read that. It's really fun to get these messages. We get a lot of, especially lately, we've been getting a lot of essentially just fan mail of people who love the show. I don't like reading them on the air because I can't say anything nice about myself. So, but know that we read them all and like they make our day. So thank you if you send those in. This isn't me fishing for them either. I genuinely wanted to just thank people for being very nice to us. It's nice to get those things, especially right now when things are so great. It's, who doesn't love to get some nice fan mail? So thank you.
We love that you're having fun along with us because this is fun. Despite the last week where I was just pessimistic and doom and gloom and people were like, Ian was being optimistic, but I don't buy it.
Yeah.
No, he really was optimistic. He really he had to be the one that calmed the rest of us down. But yeah, anyways, it's been fun. It's been an exciting time, and this is like there's no better time than this. So we're really so glad that you're having fun along with us.
Yeah. Having the time of our lives. I will say I'm kind of thankful the Canadiens don't play for a little bit. Game 1 is Monday, so we get some stress-free times. Everybody go chill out, go enjoy the sun, lay out on your front lawn, do something relaxing for the next few days because the rest of it's going to feel like a root canal for 3 hours every night. So enjoy. That's why we do it. All right, let's do our trivia and get out of here. The last question was about the last time, and actually the only other time the Montreal Canadiens played the Washington Capitals in the playoffs was in that 2010 series. Who opened scoring for the Montreal Canadiens in that 2010 playoff series versus Washington? Do you have the answer, Laura?
I do. It's Mike Camilleri.
It sure is.
Yeah.
I will say Mike Camilleri is probably the reason I'm doing things like this show. He was my first, like, this dude rules, and I will die for this player. There was Saku and Kovalev and all those, but Camilleri bursting onto the scene and being that guy for that run was just awesome. It broke my heart when they traded him, especially in the middle of a game against Boston. Anyway,
and the way they did it, they wouldn't even let him keep a jersey. All of that,
terrible.
I will say, I guess Travis Moen because he seems like that kind of guy, but it turned out to be the talented guy they picked.
It's a great pick because they would throw Moen up on that top line late in the game to try to close it out.
Yeah.
So maybe he would have gotten a cheap one here or there. Our correct answers are courtesy of Paul McIsaac and Scott Potier. So thank you for answering. Of course, the Canadiens had the overtime winner in that one. That was a really fun game.
I do want to point out as well, our co-host emeritus just said, look at the Blue Jackets score. The Blue Jackets are up 4-0 on the Islanders. The Canadiens really needed to win that game last night.
Oh, I just got the feeling of like in Back to the Future when they look at the picture and the kids start disappearing because they screwed up the pass. Like that's what just happened to me. I'm like, no, Caden Gooley scored a bunch. What do you mean? And we're just disappearing.
No, I just want to say, like, the Islanders were never going to help us. Like, they were never
no
going to
shot.
help us.
No shot.
Thank you, Caden Gooley.
Thank you, Caden Gooley. Get her done, as Caden Gooley said, and will probably be a slogan for the rest of this run. All right, today's question talked about Washington being a repeat of a playoff series in the past. How many teams are there currently in the Eastern Conference that the Canadiens have never played in the playoffs? So how many teams have currently in the Eastern Conference have the Canadiens never played in the Stanley Cup playoffs? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below. Let us know how smart you are. While you're down there, subscribe and enter our contest to win those signed pictures of Josh Anderson and Arbor Xhekaj once we hit our milestones.
Yeah, Ian is always wanting to give away his Habs memorabilia. I don't get it.
Take my stuff.
Generous. Yes, absolutely. Take his stuff. All you got to do is be subscribed and leave contest entry in the comments. Just do it once. You don't need to do it ever again. Just do it one time. We're noting it all. Thank you so much. And while you're doing that, please also tell your friends to subscribe. Please share the show. Make sure you're subscribed both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us all over social media. We are at Locked On Canadiens on Blue Sky, on TikTok, on Instagram. That's also our Gmail. Please share all kinds of stuff. If you have playoff superstitions, we want to hear them. If you've dressed up your baby in Habs gear, we want to see it. If you have like traditions with your family about the playoffs and all of that, please let us know. We want to hear from you. Also, make sure you check out Game Night, our newest show, because they're going to be covering all the way up until the Stanley Cup final is played. They're going to be covering all the games of the night, and you'll see us on there as well, or most likely my co-host. He's much faster than I am. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will talk to you on Monday when the playoffs start.